Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips. And we'll start with just a couple of announcements. Our next conference call is on Monday, November 19th, and our guest speaker is going to be Ellen Siegel, who just wrote a great new book called Be Happy No Matter What. I've read it. I wrote an endorsement of the book, and I strongly recommend you get on this call. You know, we're coming into that time of the year, the holidays, when sometimes people aren't feeling so happy, and I think Ellen has some great advice and can provide some great guidance on how you can be a happy, well-adjusted person no matter what's going on in your life. So that is on Monday, November 19th at 9 p.m. Eastern. And so last weekend was our conference, actually 2 weekends ago, by the time you see this, and I don't think that there is any amount of time that I could take that would give you an idea of how phenomenal it was. I mean, every single word that was spoken was worth remembering, and we could have a 20-hour video clip today while I relate to you everything that happened, but I did think it was important to give some highlights that were particularly meaningful to me. First of all, the thought leaders of the plant-based world were there, Dr. Barnard and Dr. McDougall, and they did not disappoint. And every time I hear those guys, even though they've heard them an awful lot of times, I learned something new. But we had newcomers at this conference. Dr. Larry Pilevsky, the pediatrician from New York, presented for the first time. And his presentation on vaccines was amazing, and it was also disturbing. It was so convincing that really nobody in the audience argued with him or challenge the facts that he presented, and it's hard to challenge the facts. They're in the medical journals that all of our colleagues should be reading. So I think everybody left feeling that our policies in this country regarding vaccines could use some reconsideration, and that refusal to look at this issue a little differently is almost unconscionable based on the evidence that he showed. Dr. Peter Breggin was also new to the Wellness Forum, and his presentation was also both disturbing and incredible. Dr. Breggin's been outspoken against the use of psychiatric medications for years, and he's endured incredible hardships as a result of this. The American Psychiatric Association tried to have his medical license taken away after he appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show and said that that people should never be medicated. And in addition to that battle, which he won, he also became the expert witness in all the lawsuits against the drug companies for drugs like Prozac. And it's amazing that one human being could withstand 40 years of this type of fighting and reforming and still be a pleasant, happy person, get up in front of the group and inspire everybody, but he really did. The statistic that I found amazing about Dr. Breggin's practice is that he started practicing in 1968, and since that time he has not written a single prescription for a drug for any patient. He has not institutionalized anyone and has had no completed suicides. He says he doesn't believe in ADHD, and he doesn't believe children should be medicated for this non-existent condition. And I think that's an amazing track record. And those of us who had the privilege of listening to him for the 2 talks that he gave, you can see from his manner how he would be so helpful to people. I just didn't want him to go home, actually. For those who say the drugs make them feel better, he refers to that as medication spellbinding, not knowing you're affected. And he gave the analogy that if you've ever tried to take the car keys away from somebody who was clearly intoxicated and they thought they were fine to drive, that's what happens to people who take these drugs. They really don't even realize that they're impaired and affected by them. He was asked if people on the drugs who've taken them for a long time can still get off of them, and he made a really profound comment. He said the human spirit is bigger than the brain, and he has seen many people return to normal after years of being on these drugs. What is apparent in listening to Dr. Breggin is he truly loves people. He mentioned that when he visited mental institutions early in his career, he noticed that the places were just awful, but the people who were there just needed to be cared about, and they were no different than you and I. And he talked about his experiences with patients. It just became really clear why he's so effective. He loves them. And he said, what heals us and the people around us is becoming a source of love, and anything that doesn't look like love, you just don't do it. One particularly important comment from my perspective is that he's appalled by mental health professionals' stance that they should remain objective with their patients. And I've always wrestled with that a little bit. Is it appropriate to share things about your personal life or to give opinions? And he says we can't be neutral about human beings, and if we treat people like objects, we're doomed. We either matter or we don't, and patients absolutely should matter. And it made me feel better about the way that I deal with people, which is to share part of myself and to give opinions. I think that's what people come here for. There aren't special truths for special people. What an incredible comment that is. He says evil comes from thinking that there are special ways to treat certain groups of people, and we've chosen to treat people with mental and emotional disorders differently when what they need is the same thing that all of us need, which is love and consideration and support. I knew that Dr. Breggin was really making an impact because in a packed room with a few hundred people, you could hear a pin drop during both of his talks. Nobody got up, nobody had a drink of water, nobody rustled any papers or even coughed. I think everybody felt like I did. They just wanted to soak up every precious word that he said and everything that came out of his mouth. The audience interaction was also interesting. He left times for lots of questions, both talks. And for those who expressed frustration in getting others to listen to this and other helpful messages, he had a great comment. He said, we can give help, but we don't get to decide whether the other person is going to use it. And so for any of us that have felt a little frustration, particularly with family and friends that aren't inclined to listen to us, that was a really helpful statement. Well, the best part, I think, is that everybody in the room felt if they were taking these drugs, they wanted to stop. If they weren't, they were never going to start. Everybody in the room, including me, has family and friends who are affected by these drugs. And so the next logical question is, what do we do about it? And at this same conference, we launched our Emotional Wellness 101 program that you might have read about in the newsletter in previous months. And we were so fortunate that Dr. Jacobson was there, the medical director from California, who's going to administer this program. And just brief description, it's going to be a 32-week program with sessions conducted by Dr. Jacobson using our virtual classroom format where everybody's on an interactive conference call with slides and materials that have been emailed to them. And the program is for people who are on the drugs and want to taper and eliminate them, and also for people who aren't taking the drugs but still having issues and they don't want to start taking drugs. So I think that everybody was pretty impressed with Dr. Jacobson and what he had to say. And I'll tell you what my observation was. I was sitting at the table in the front watching these two guys. They each did a presentation on Saturday and Sunday. And it occurred to me that both of them are really happy, well-adjusted people who really love other people, and what great folks to help people get centered and deal with their mental and emotional issues. I was smiling when I was listening to them speak, and I wish I could do the whole Emotional Wellness 101 program because I just think I would benefit and so would everybody. So for those of you who were not able to meet Dr. Jacobson, he has graciously decided to do 2 conference calls on November 15th and November 20th at 9 p.m. Eastern. The calls are free. They're open to anyone. You can just call our office for the phone number and passcode, and he'll explain to you how the program works and take questions about it. So you can also email me for information. We'll have a schedule posted shortly. The program actually starts on December 4th. And so I think at the end of the day, like I said, Dr. Breggin's discussion about drugs was really disturbing in terms of how terrible they are and how they really can't help anybody. But we're really excited that we have a solution to the issue that Dr. Breggin educated us about at the conference. And so there's a way to have happiness and joy in life and to do it without drugs. In fact, I think after listening to the presentations and all the reading I've done, I think it's almost impossible to experience that while still taking the drugs. And our program really means that you don't have to do this by yourself. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for, is community and a way to address these issues so they don't feel so alone. So like I said, every precious word was fabulous, and I wish I could just read it all to you, but I selected some highlights that I thought were important. And I recommend Dr. Jacobson's book, Forgive to Win. I recommend Dr. Breggin's book, all of his books, all of them wonderful. And just can't tell you how special it was to spend the weekend with such great people, not only our speakers, but the group of attendees who really helped us to create a very, very special weekend too. So I'll sign off for now. As always, please feel free to pass this on to anybody that you think would benefit from watching it, and I will be back to you on Thursday.